It is often said that the most tumultuous entanglements do not begin with a kiss. A dialogue begins to unfold. A bond. A void that another attempts to occupy, while the one who ought to be present remains blissfully unaware. My name is Natalie, and this is the tale of how I unraveled in the embrace of the very man who was meant to mend my fractured spirit. I found myself at the age of 34, joined in matrimony. On the surface, all appeared flawless. Ethan, my husband, embodied kindness and responsibility, yet simultaneously emotionally distant. We had ceased to share the same bed, ceased to find amusement. Conversations dwindled to mere discussions of bills, groceries, or scheduling. I had no desire to betray trust. I yearned to experience that sensation once more. Thus, I embarked on the journey of therapy. It was at that moment that I encountered Dr. Lewis Carter. He defied all my expectations. In his late 40s, he exudes a rugged charm, yet maintains a polished appearance. Resonant voice. A man who effortlessly commanded attention without even trying. He didn't inquire about my troubles immediately. He observed, heard. His silences were not marked by discomfort. Rather, they exuded a sense of security. By the second session, tears streamed down my face in a way I hadn't experienced in years. Not even in the presence of my husband. As the hour drew to a close, a reluctance to depart enveloped me. Not because my words had run dry. Yet, it was due to the fact that he was the first individual to truly make me feel acknowledged. In the weeks that followed, I began to reveal more of myself. I confided in him secrets I had kept locked away, that I loathed the image staring back at me. I dreamed of beginning anew in a city where I was a stranger to all. There were moments when I envisioned vanishing completely. Dr. Carter held no judgments. He gazed at me as if I still held the promise of redemption, even in moments when my own faith wavered. He recalled the nuances, the type of wine that captured my affection, the canine companion I cherished during my 8th year, the manner in which I wielded sarcasm as a shield against discussing the hurt. Gradually, my trust in him deepened. It transformed into a longing. It occurred in the midst of our 8th session. I recounted to him the disagreement that had unfolded between Ethan and me the previous night. My voice faltered. With a flush of shame, I averted my gaze. And then, he extended his hand toward the tissue box, but rather than offering it to me, he softly set it down beside me, and for a moment that lingered just a heartbeat too long. His hand lingered near mine. My heart raced with fervor. Thus was his. A palpable sensation coursed through me. He cleared his throat, a subtle prelude to the words that were about to follow. Perhaps we ought to take a moment to pause here today. Yet, I found myself reluctant to halt. I yearned to remain. I inquired, "Do you ever experience loneliness, Dr. Carter?" He gazed directly into my eyes, and remained silent. Yet within that stillness, everything transformed. I made my way to the car and settled in for a contemplative half-hour, gazing intently at the steering wheel. Heat coursed through my body. My chest feels tight, as if I had crossed a line, yet also embraced an exhilarating secret. In the stillness of the night, he invaded my dreams. It wasn't merely his hands or his mouth. It was the essence of how he made me feel vibrant. And I understood that whatever had just started between us, it was far from finished. It is often said that emotional infidelity is in fact a form of betrayal. I believe it has deteriorated. For when your body heeds the call of your heart, you have already departed. And then I vanished. Even if I had yet to lay a finger on him, even if I continued to don my wedding ring each day, I had already surrendered myself to him. Within the stillness, engaged in contemplation, in yearning, it began as a mere whisper. Dr. Carter started to arrange my appointments for the close of his day. The final appointment. There shall be no further clients following my departure. There's no hurry. We began our run, pushing beyond the confines of the hour. 15 minutes 30. There was even a time it stretched to an hour beyond. I would express my regrets. He would smile and say, "You required the time." Yet, an unspoken understanding lingered between us, a silent acknowledgement of our actions. Expanding horizons, evaluating them, he began to adopt a new posture, more casual, more open. I observed the way his shirt sleeves were rolled up. I observed the absence of his wedding ring. I observed it all. And he observed me as well. He praised my blouse. He inquired whether I had altered my hairstyle. He once remarked, "There's more light in your eyes lately." He positioned the light in that spot. And I found myself captivated by the way he perceived me. One evening I arrived trembling. Ethan had charged me with being distant. He remarked, "You're no longer present." He was indeed correct. I collapsed in Lewis's office, weeping, wandering thoughts. He offered me a tissue. Then I leaned forward and softly brushed my fingers against my knee. Only his hand. Yet it lingered. Excessively lengthy. Excessively warm. Excessively aware. I gazed upon it. She turned her gaze towards him. "That's not how it's meant to be done," I murmured. He remained still. He simply stated, "I know." In the following week he inquired whether I would like to walk and talk. An outing beyond the confines of the office. Only a single time. I acquiesced. We strolled through a serene park, distant from the bustle of the town. He inquired about the nuances of my early years. I inquired about his preferred genre of music. It no longer resembled therapy. It seemed as though flirtation was cloaked in the guise of healing. Upon our return to the parking lot, we found ourselves standing beside my car. We parted ways without uttering a farewell. And then he pressed his lips to mine. It lacked tenderness. It unfolded unexpectedly. It was a kiss that shattered the silence, leaving fragments of what once was in its wake. An irrevocable kiss. Following that night, the facade crumbled away. In hushed corners our paths intertwined. The space he occupies for work. A place of refuge and comfort. There was a time even nestled in the backseat of my car. Our conversation dwindled into silence after that. It is not a matter of guilt. It doesn't concern Ethan. It does not pertain to his spouse. Yet, whenever we found ourselves in each other's company, it seemed as though we were pilfering breath from a realm that was never ours to claim. What could possibly be more disheartening? I was reluctant to return it. I believed we could maintain our little secret. That our realm, this hidden enchanting realm, was secure. Yet, the nature of secrets is such. They possess an inherent desire to be uncovered. And there was already an observer in the shadows. There are already hints of suspicion. I was yet unaware of it. A distinct chill envelopes the air when a woman gazes at you and understands. She remains silent. She avoids confrontation. She merely observes. And in some inexplicable way that stings deeper. This marks the moment in the narrative when the fabric of reality began to intertwine with the consequences I had long chosen to ignore. It began with a glance. One afternoon, I found myself departing from Lewis's office following a rather prolonged meeting. As I rounded the corner leading to the elevator, there she was waiting. Lofty, graceful, stunning in an effortlessly commanding manner. Initially, her identity eluded me. Yet there was something in her gaze that sent a shiver through my core. Silence enveloped her. She merely gazed at me, her head inclined ever so slightly. It felt as though she was observing me intently. The memory of that look lingered in my mind for days on end. She was known as Claire. I had never inquired about Lewis's wife prior to this moment. He rarely extended much in the way of offerings. What I understood was this. She held the title of a corporate lawyer. They were without children. In the embrace of 14 years of marriage, I inquired of him with a hint of jest. "Do you love her?" His response was subdued. "I hold her in high regard." And deep within me, I understood that it signified a no. Following that brief encounter in the elevator, a shift occurred. Lewis found his focus wavering. Remote. Our encounters became less frequent. He called off 2 consecutive sessions. Neglected to respond to a message for an entire weekend. And when we finally came face to face, he appeared weary. "I believe she's aware," he remarked. In an instant. No build-up. There is no room for denial. I inquired. "What will you do next?" He remained silent. 1 week later, I found myself nestled in a corner cafe close to my office. Engaging with literature. Or feigning to. A figure took a seat opposite me. I glanced upward, and my veins turned to ice. "Claire." Her lips curled into a smile. Unkind. Not unkind. Simply precise. As if she were a woman who had traversed this path previously. You must be Natalie, am I correct? I inclined my head in agreement. I had anticipated a more enchanting appearance from you. Yet I suppose you will suffice. Her voice carried a serene quality. I was not. I'm not here to engage in conflict, she stated. I want you to understand this. I'm not going anywhere. And you are not either. Then she rose to her feet. She adjusted her blazer with a gentle motion and stepped outside. Following that day, all began to fall apart. Louis ceased all contact with me, both on a personal level and in our professional dealings. He claimed that Claire had issued a threat to inform the medical board about him. She claimed to possess evidence, declared it was finished. Tears streamed down my face. Implored. I confessed my love to him. He remarked, "Don't complicate this more than it needs to be." And just like that it came to a close. Not with a sudden impact. Without the theatrics. Yet accompanied by silence. The sort that consumes all in its path. And it leaves you pondering whether any of it was ever genuine in the first place. When you inhabit two worlds for an extended period, the line blurs, and you lose sight of which existence is genuine. Until they both succumb to exhaustion. And there you stand amidst the remnants isolated. Following Claire's confrontation, Louis fell silent, leaving my messages unanswered. Failed to respond to my calls. I arrived at his office, but the door remained closed, uninviting. The sign outside continued to proclaim, Dr. Louis Carter, licensed therapist. Yet he was absent. I lingered in the parking lot for a stretch of 2 hours. And I came to a profound realization that struck me more deeply than any rejection. I would never lay eyes on him again. Upon returning home, I endeavored to feign a sense of normalcy. Grins. Evenings filled with culinary delights. Casual conversation. Yet I found myself coming apart at the seams. I would gaze out the window for what felt like an eternity. Neglect to respond to emails. Awakened in tears from dreams that slipped away too quickly. One evening, Ethan remarked, "I can't quite recognize who you've become." My gaze fell upon him, truly observed, and came to the understanding that I was equally in the dark. On a Tuesday, the world unfolded in its usual rhythm. Behind schedule. I lay in slumber when his voice pierced the silence. "Who the hell is Louis Carter?" I sprang to my feet. He stood by the bed, my phone grasped in his hand. The messages I chose to keep forever. The secrets I believed I had concealed so effectively. He had witnessed it all. The images. The designated locations for gathering. The echoes of longing. What had I overlooked? He inquired. Did I truly fade into the background for you? I endeavored to elucidate. Attempted to convey that it wasn't centered around intimacy. I felt adrift, hollow yearning for connection. Louis was the first to awaken a sense of vitality within me. Yet, Ethan was not seeking an explanation. He sought the truth. And the truth was far from beautiful. I had shattered something. And no apology existed that could mend the rift. He refrained from raising his voice. I held back my tears. He simply stated, "You ought to go." Thus I proceeded. A suitcase was packed with care. I entered my vehicle. Ventured into the vast unknown. Arrived at a budget-friendly hotel. Perched upon the bed. And for the first time in years, I found myself without anyone to deceive. There is no therapist. Without a husband. No involvement. Only I. The overwhelming burden of all that I have shattered. I believed I was breaking free from suffering. Yet, I was merely in the process of transferring it. Inflicting pain on another does not alleviate your own suffering. It simply proliferates. Desperation coursed through me. A longing to be noticed. To experience a gentle caress. To be desired. Yet now I would trade anything to regain that trust once more. Individuals frequently inquire, "Do you harbor any regrets?" And the reality is, I find myself at a loss for words. Regret possesses an enigmatic quality. It exists beyond the confines of your mind. It establishes a dwelling within your heart. And it remains. Long after the entanglement has concluded. Long after the last footsteps fade into silence. I spent 3 nights in that hotel room. I hardly consumed anything. I hardly slept at all. I found myself repeatedly glancing at my phone, despite the absence of any incoming messages. Not Lewis. Not Ethan. Merely an acquaintance. I found myself imbued with a strange, luminous energy. Poisonous. And I was aware of it. A week later I encountered Lewis. Unintentionally. I found myself at the pharmacy. He strolled in, clad in sunglasses and clutching a bag of vitamins. For perhaps the briefest moment, our gazes intertwined. He stood motionless. I did as well. He offered me a firm nod. Respectful. Chilly. Then they stepped outside. That marked our farewell. I settled into a cozy apartment on the far side of town. I've begun attending therapy once more. This time with a different therapist. A woman this time around. Firm limits. Clear boundaries. I revealed it all to her. Unforgivable. Yet, I found it essential to articulate it, to claim my actions as my own. Ethan ceased all communication with me. Once I penned a letter to him. 10 pages. I'm not seeking another opportunity. Simply elucidating. The pain. The abyss. The frantic, foolish quest for significance. Yet, I never dispatched it. For I came to understand he was not obligated to provide me with closure. More than a year has passed now. I refrain from dating. I refrain from flirting. I seek not another to mend what lies in disarray. I delve into literature with greater frequency. Take more steps. Embrace the stillness and allow the ache to linger. For that is the path to healing. Not by erasing the hurt, but by embracing it until it eventually eases. And gradually it begins to soften. If you find yourself contemplating that boundary, reconsider. Not due to any flaw in your character. Yet, it is precisely because you are unprepared for the person you will become in the aftermath. What lingers after the affair is more than mere shattered trust. It is the reflection. And the figure gazing back at you could very well be a stranger you no longer recognize. Yet, if fortune smiles upon you, you may have the chance to restore her. Bit by bit. Fact by fact. Solitary yet sincere.